So I took the accounting class and I absolutely loved it. And it's a story. I mean, really, that's what your numbers tell, is your story.
All right, so today's episode is Casey Williams, and this is going to be a killer episode. You don't usually hear a bookkeeper or an accountant that has a personality, but she's going to share her journey growing up, being a young mother, carrying her all the way through a master's degree to working the kind of American corporate dream, working all the way up into a corporation, to realizing she needed to open her own business. And now she's on a mission to educate high school and college students how to manage their own finances while she's still an accountant, bookkeeper. Just a great story. Hope you enjoy this journey, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and have fun.
Hey, got something really cool I wanted to run by and let you know what's going on. So I'm starting a group that will start taking a deep dive into each one of these episodes. So we'll collectively come together and talk about the shows, talk about the guest. I'll be bringing back some of the guests to do some Q&A sessions and really take a further dive into their story, their journey, the episode, talk about, maybe some of the things you wish I would have asked on the episodes, do some Q&A sessions and the like. As a friend put it to me, it's really like a book club, but for the podcast. So a couple times a week, we'll go in, we'll break down the favorite shows of the week, and have cool discussions around everything that we've heard, we've learned, and want to know about their journey. Some of these guests will come in and they'll teach part of, what makes them awesome at what they do. And then, as always, I'll be providing regular value and content in this group. It's really cool because this only is going to cost $5 a month to join this group. And you'll be able to come in, interact with everybody else in there. So I'll put a link right in the show notes for this that you can jump in, come have a conversation with us, and we will really deep dive into each one of these episodes and help us all rise up together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a great show today. Having the show wasn't something I started out to do, but the day I found out somebody wanted to really sponsor the show was a really, really cool experience. So guys, I want you to take some time to go check out Point Blank Safety Services and their new nonprofit, Blue Family Fund. These guys are doing some really, really cool things. And Stacy McGovern, who's the CEO over there, has been a dear friend, and she was a guest on the show. But these guys are literally taking, the off-duty officers and putting them out in security guard role. And here's what's cool about it is, as they're protecting our lives, they don't make a whole lot of money in that regard. No first responders are paid for the value they provide for our safety and our health and taking care of us. So these guys, Stacy and her team over at Point Blank Safety Services have really found a cool way to give back to these officers by helping them provide an additional income so they can continue to support and protect us. So do me a favor, guys. Seriously, go check out pointblanksafety.com and then go look at their nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. Now, this nonprofit was created because of the success of Point Blank Safety Services. They wanted to give back to the families of fallen officers and be able to give scholarships away to the families of current, police officers. So do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go out and help support this show by supporting Point Blank Safety Services and their nonprofit Blue Family Fund. Just tell them Donnie has sent you. You heard it on Donnie Success Champions, and Stacy will take a tremendous and amazing care of you. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, so it should be a fun episode today. I'm bringing Miss Casey Williams, and she's got a pretty cool story about striking out on her own to create her business and how she got there. So really looking forward to this. So, Miss Casey, welcome to the show, my dear. Tell me your story. Tell me your journey.
Hello, my name is Casey, and I've been in accounting for 20-some years, and I have worked for public firms and worked for a software company. And while I was at the public firm, people would come into their appointment just stressed out about their taxes and the fears of the unknown. And sometimes there were tears, and it doesn't have to be that way. And so I started my own firm to where I can help people a little more hand-holding than the traditional accounting firm. And when I started out on my own, it was a little scary because I was trying to replace my income. And when I came across things that I didn't know, how do I handle that? And we're talking tax, we're talking the IRS. So it's not like you get, a screw up and it's okay, because it's not. It's the IRS.
Right.
So that has probably been my biggest obstacle, was the journey of okay, I have to figure out how to do things. Where do I go to get that information, and how do I make it to where my clients aren't scared of the tax man? Because it doesn't have to be scary.
Yeah, because let's be honest, taxes suck. I mean, there's no way around it. My CPA, when I first sat down, launched my business, I said, look, my job is to make a lot of money. Your job is to keep me out of jail and make sure my paperwork and everything's taken care of, because I don't know anything about taxes. I know that she handles my stuff and we just figure it out. So what got you into this accounting journey? Not a lot of people, when they're 3 years old in class, raise their hand and say, I want to be an accountant when I grow older. So where did this all start? How'd you get in the game?
Well, actually, it started in high school, and you're right. I don't know that I've ever heard a 3-year-old say they want to be an accountant. I started in high school. I had taken all of the regular classes that I needed to take, and so I had some extra time in my schedule when I was in high school, and one of the teachers suggested that I take an accounting class, a business class. And I'm like, okay. And so I did an internship right out of high school. That's
interesting, because you said, okay, if somebody would have looked at me and said take an accounting class, I'd have looked at them like I had two freaking heads.
Well, it was a math class, and I'm like, well, that's got to be easier than taking calculus. So, I mean, it was the least of two evils, right? Okay, yeah. Right. So I took the accounting class, and I absolutely loved it. And it's a story. I mean, really, that's what your numbers tell, is your story. And so it's a game to me. It's a puzzle to figure out how to get the numbers on the return to make them so where you owe the least amount of tax possible. And so I just make it a game.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I've never thought about my numbers being a story, but you're absolutely right. I mean, everything that you do, the numbers don't lie. I mean, the numbers are the numbers.
That's right. There's a trail to everything that you do.
Which is good, bad, and ugly. I mean,
that's right. Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. So after high school, you're going through the accounting classes. Where'd you go next?
Right out of high school, I did my associate's degree in accounting, and I had a son before I went to college. So I had my son. Actually, high school graduation day was my due date.
Oh.
Yeah. 2 weeks out of high school, I had a baby. And then 2 weeks after that, I went to college. I loved it so much that I doubled up on classes to get out faster. And then I got married, had more kids, and then I decided I wanted to go back. I was actually in a job that I was as high as I could go with the education that I had. And so I decided I was managing a convenience store. And I said, there's got to be something better. And so I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree. And while I was there, I transitioned went to work for the software company. And while I was there, I went ahead and got my master's degree. And then from there, I went to public accounting.
Holy cow. So you really like school.
I do like school. It's my goal on my bucket list to get my doctorate, and I'd like to get my CPA.
Oh, wow. That much schooling just makes me nauseous.
Yeah, I've gone to school for 19 years so far.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I was a guy, I'm going to pull my report card because I love telling. I graduated with like 1 point above not being able to graduate. So it was like a 2.1 or something, was my GPA, which is all I needed because that's what allowed me to go in the Marine Corps. And just the entire thought process of going back to some institution and sitting down and learning things. I've spoken at a couple of schools, and even then I cringe walking through those hallways. So good on you. There's a few professions that need the education, and accounting is one of those professions because there's just so many freaking tax laws and everything else. And that's why you must pay somebody else to do your books. Don't ever do your own books. Wow. Have a kid at 18, which means you and that child grew up together. I've got a friend of mine, she had her first at 15, and that's the biggest thing, is she's just now had a second kid, and she's 38 years old. So the gap between the two kids is crazy, but that's one thing she always said is, her and her daughter grew up together. So then you're working in a convenience store,
mm-hmm.
and in that process, find somebody else, get married, have a couple more kids. So now you're a mom to several kids, a wife,
mm-hmm.
carrying on some career and putting your butt through school.
Exactly. Yes.
Good on you.
I sat down with my homework and my plate many nights to get through school. And I didn't go to a traditional college the second time when I went back. I went to a school that was catered to adult working parents. And at that time I had 3 children, and they were young. They were maybe 10, 6, and 4. So it was a struggle. I mean, my then husband actually bought me for Christmas someone to come in and clean my house once a week. So, because I just couldn't do it all.
There's just there's not enough hours in the day.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But I graduated with a 3.8, so I didn't do too bad. So then I went into public accounting, and from there then opened my own firm.
Wow. So how did you know that you were ready? I mean, because that's a big move. I mean, what I love about your journey so far is you're definitely not scared to jump out there. I mean, to make the transition, go all the way up to getting a master's degree, that's impressive, and that's some time in school, and 19 years to be exact. What was that kind of a turning point that you said, I'm tired of working for somebody else. I've now got to do this on my own?
Well, owning an accounting firm wasn't my first business that I had.
Okay.
That I've always had like a side hustle. I worked, let's see, first I think I sold Tupperware, and I did pretty good at it. I qualified for a car, and I did that when I had my second son, and I was on maternity leave and couldn't go back. The doctor wouldn't release me yet, and so I sold Tupperware while on maternity leave.
I appreciate that hustle. Right?
Yeah.
Different job. I'm going to find a workaround. Good on you.
So, and then after that, I did a couple other direct marketing MLM type jobs. I owned a daycare because our babysitter quit. She decided, we live in a small community, so like big daycares are not a thing here. So it's usually in someone's home, and someone has, 8 or 10 kids of other people's. That's how daycare works in our area.
Gotcha.
And so our daycare provider told us that she was going to quit. She gave us like a week's notice. And so I gave a week's notice, and I took the kids from that daycare and I started my own daycare. And so I did that for 3 or 4 years. And then I sold that daycare, and then I went back to work. So I had a daycare part of the time while I was in school as well. So it's been, I've had some other side hustles as well.
You know what I love about that is you actually have real world business experience. So when you're working with your clients and everything else, you have to have somewhat of that empathetic side to you of knowing the stresses they're going through, because nobody walks into tax time going, yay, let's talk taxes,
That's very true. That's very true. My accounting firm is not big enough that I don't know my clients. So I know, and doing your taxes, you learn a lot about people. So I know where they work, how many kids they have, what their ages are. And I have kids, and my kids now are 24, 19, 16, and 14. So I can empathize, as you said, with the people, because it's not just a business. It's not just a W-2. It's not just numbers. There are people. There's a family behind those numbers. And so I do get to know my clients, to know what they like and what their interests are. And to me, that's more important than the numbers on the tax return.
And that's awesome because I've met a wide variety of accountants and bookkeepers and CPAs, and you usually get one or two people you're going to sit across from. One is the true just bean counter. You might as well just give them a slide ruler and charts and call it a day because they can't conversate to save their life. And then you get people that are more like you that can handle the whole story and get to know people and get to find out about their journey and stuff. So good on you. That's a beautiful thing. So what point did you go work for the big accounting firm?
I went to the big accounting firm after I was let go from the software company. They did a big downsize. They went from, I think there were 25, 26 people, and when I got let go, there were 7 left. And so, I knew it was coming because I could see it. And then I went to work for the accounting firm because that was something I knew. I'd done taxes. And when I worked at the software company, that's what I did. I worked with the IRS to make our software match the regulations of the IRS and of the states. So I was very familiar with that territory. So, which is how I learned state tax law. Isn't that exciting?
No, it's not.
No, I think it is exciting to know the different pieces and how the different states work. There are a few states I would never live in and never own a business in just because I have that knowledge. So,
okay, now I'm curious. Which states would you never live in because of tax laws?
New Jersey, Pennsylvania,
you know what? I've heard
and Ohio.
A couple times. Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't heard of Ohio. I knew New Jersey. New Jersey's got some weird laws up there.
Yeah, and a lot of taxes. If you live there and you are an employee for someone else, you get a W-2, you pay 8 taxes off your paycheck.
Ouch.
Yeah, like normal people pay 3, 4.
Right.
We pay federal, we pay Social Security, Medicare, and state tax. If you live in New Jersey, or there's a couple other of those little states, the colony type states, you pay unemployment and you pay workers' comp and you pay all kinds of things. A lot of those are the employee side when you get out there on the East Coast. So, yeah, right. No, I don't want to go.
I just want to be that guy that pays no taxes.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a red flag. So I don't think you want to be that guy either. You can pay low tax, but not no tax.
Right. Well, so accounting wasn't really that thing you were aiming for. It almost sounds like it kind of found you.
It kind of did, yeah. I have a degree in accounting, but I also have a degree in business administration. And so more so than the actual accounting, I'm more interested in how your business works and what your goals are in your business and how to get there. So we use the numbers to get there.
So that means you're almost more of a comptroller.
Almost, yes. Especially for the smaller businesses that don't have that position. They are that position. They are the janitor, the bookkeeper, the everything. So, yes, I ask some of those questions because when I meet with my clients every month and we go over, okay, your advertising has gone up. What is your plan there? Because your income did not go up to match. So sometimes, it's an investment. They're hoping for the next month or the next 2 months that the advertising will kick in and the income will show. Sometimes I have to say, your pay is a little out of line for what your business is. That's not always a comfortable conversation for the client because... Wait a minute,
we're not supposed to pay us more than we make?
No, you're not.
Come on, what's the fun in that?
Nor can you pay yourself 90%. But so sometimes, we have to have those tough conversations. And I've had to have the conversation of if you continue this trajectory in 3 years, you're not going to have a business. So some of those types of conversations aren't always fun, but I really like the conversations of, okay, you have too much income. We need to find some place to put it, or you're going to pay it to Uncle Sam.
Oh, how do I get that problem? I want that.
Yeah. So we have those conversations as well.
So yeah. That's awesome. There's a couple of people, any business, especially your smaller businesses, they have to have, and you've got to have people on your team, and you've got to have a lawyer on your team, you've got to have a bookkeeper, CPA on your team. I really love where you're coming from, of more of truly working and becoming a partner in a company. You're not invested in the company, but you're emotionally invested in the company, which is huge because their success allows you to continue doing what you're doing. So I love that. When you went to work for the big accounting firm, was that a choice or was that just the next job in front of you? You know, because some people,
kind of both.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of both. When I was in high school and I decided that that was the profession that I wanted, I had this dream of someday being in a big accounting firm and actually having that corner cube. And I got there. I mean, when in my dream, it was a gray cube. I mean, I could see it. I could picture it. I got there and I didn't like it. I was no, this is not for me. I don't want to sit behind a cube and just count numbers and crunch numbers. That's not me. I don't like it.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean, as a kid growing up, I thought success was, you know, you worked in a big skyscraper, you wore the suits, you know, you drove the nice cars, and I thought that was success. And same thing for me is when I got that, it sucked. I didn't want that lifestyle of, you know, this corporate world. Why didn't you like it?
Well, up until that point, I'd always worked with men. And so then when I got to that office, it was all women. And that is a total different structure.
Yeah, women don't play nice together.
No, they do not. So I decided to have my own office of women.
and what's wild is I found that more ambitious women, you know, the ones that are really trying to climb the corporate ladders, those are the ones that seem to get nasty with each other. It's wild to watch their story.
Wild is yeah. Yeah. So I guess, you know, it was a dream, but when I got there, I was like, it's more of a nightmare. I don't want this. So.
Well, but that's interesting because I think a lot of people end up living that experience, but only some have the courage to realize that it's the wrong path. I mean, a lot of people choose that misery for the next 20, 30 years. And I don't know how they do it, but they do. What was it for you that said, you know, I could do this on my own? I mean, I know you've had a couple of small businesses, but I mean, that's a big move.
Well, I guess the biggest courage thing I did was I wrote a book. And when I wrote the book, I mean, I kind of did it in just a chapter at a time, more of okay, I'm going to make a blog out of this, or I'm going to do something with it. I really didn't picture it when I started as a book. And I guess part of me did it as it was I could put my frustrations down on paper that way. And so I wrote different topics, I wrote different subjects, and then I took several of those and combined them into a book. And when I did that and I was like, oh, I wrote a book. Then it was like, okay, if I can do that, you know, I can do an accounting firm. I've done payroll. I've done payroll taxes. That doesn't bother me. I've called the IRS. And when I worked at the software company, the IRS would call me. And the receptionist would say, the IRS is calling you? I'm like, okay, I called them and left them a message. So, yeah, I'm expecting their call.
Yeah,
and
because
like,
nobody
it's the IRS. Why do you want to call?
No, nobody ever wants that call. One, why would you ever want to call the IRS? And two, if the phone rings and that's the IRS on the other side, that's a scary moment.
It is, yeah. And so that none of that scared me. It didn't scare me. And now, yes, I'm in business for myself, but I have accountability groups. I have networking people that I get with. So I don't feel that I'm by myself. I have other people that if I come into something that I'm just like, I'd really like to just bounce this idea off somebody else, I have those people that I can do that with.
Well, which is huge because being a business owner / entrepreneur, however you want to call it, just depending on what label you're wearing that day, it gets lonely as hell sometimes when you're, especially like in your situation where you're pretty much a one-man shop, you've got to make all the calls, and it's very important to have those key people that you can bounce ideas and business conversations off of, because those conversations don't always go well with our spouses because they don't always understand exactly what we're into, what we're doing. They're always coming from a place of support, but they don't always understand the business side of it. So
yeah, very true. Yeah.
How are you growing your business? You know, I know several bookkeepers, and I know some very successful ones. I know some successful accountants, but I also know some ones that really struggle to grow their business, find new clientele. You definitely don't come across as the shy, typical bookkeeper. So I'm assuming that's part of it. But how do you find clients? How do you grow your business?
Well, in a couple different areas. I have 6 people that work for me. So some of it comes from referral or networking. But I also I do Facebook groups. I do a Facebook Live on my page every week. So just to give content.
And like what are you doing in these Facebook Lives? Yeah, go ahead.
Last week was on credit. like how do you repair your credit? How do you manage your credit score? How do you manage your credit report? A couple weeks ago, I did one on your expenses, how to watch them, what to watch, how to track them, all that kind of stuff. This
how to
coming
hide
week,
alcohol as a purchase for your business and a receipt, that kind of thing.
well, you could have done that up until 2018,
Right?
but now you can't.
Right.
This coming week is on how to set yourself up for a winning tax season. So
Interesting.
yeah, so I do content just to give information, because some people aren't to the point where they're ready to hire a bookkeeper. You know, they're
Right.
very, very small, and so they don't want to hire a big, expensive bookkeeper. And there are some bookkeepers that aren't real big and expensive. But Facebook is one avenue that I use. LinkedIn, I do a fair amount on LinkedIn. And then the good old-fashioned phone book. I make cold calls, and I call.
Get out.
I know, right?
I spent 19 years in the sales game. Last 8 as a sales trainer. I have never, ever seen an accountant or a bookkeeper do a cold call.
Well, I do about 25 of them a day.
High five, girl. You're my new best friend.
I actually look forward to them, because it's an opportunity to talk with someone that is maybe stressed, pained, frustrated, looking for that solution, and I am that solution. I look forward to them.
Okay, where does that kind of courage come from? Because that's not normal. Not in your industry, right?
You're right, it's not. A lot of personal development. I do a lot of personal development. I belong to a leadership group that we do a ton of personal development and read books and discuss them. And I didn't get to it overnight either. I mean, it took a long time for me to get to the place where I was comfortable making those calls. But it's like anything. If you do it long enough, it gets comfortable.
Yeah. And, a lot of people live by that philosophy, you got to fake it till you make it. And I'm not that guy. I think you got to do it to become it, which is a big difference. I think if you try and fake it, then you're putting a false front out there. So good on you for putting yourself out there and being willing to get punched in the face, several times to figure out this whole process. What inspired you to start putting out the content and educating people around this accounting world? I'm fascinated, and I'm going to jump into one of your pages so I can see these live, because Lord knows I need it for my business. But what inspired you to be a voice for businesses?
I was in a group, and actually it was a sales group that I had purchased a course online. And that was one of the things the guy said was give away free content. Don't give away the farm, but you have to give away enough that you can establish yourself as an expert. And I kind of have a mixed feeling about the word expert, but I do know taxes. I do know business. So that part of it, I don't mind talking about. I mean, I can talk all day about tax laws and tax changes and how to put that in your business and how it affects you and all of those types of things. I could talk all day long about that. And it still doesn't replace what I do for my clients.
Right. Well, and, engagement is king. And if you provide real value, people will reach in further and say, hey, I love what you're putting out there. We need to work together, So, I mean, seriously, good on you. You're blowing me away. I have never met an accountant that approaches business this way. It's impressive. Where's all this taking you? I mean, at this point, you're on your track to be the next Susie Orsman.
Well, I don't know about that. I worked a full-time job, and I don't anymore. I'm able to pay for we have a lot of toys. My husband also is an entrepreneur. And so we have certain topics that we don't discuss together. Taxes being one of them. And
it's
how
a
to run a
conversation.
business.
I get it.
It is, yes. And how to run a business. Sometimes we don't talk about that either, because the way he runs his business and the way I run my business are not the same. But we do have a lot of toys. We have a boat, and we own a race team.
What kind of toys?
We own a race team.
You own a race team?
Yes.
What kind of trucks, cars?
Cars, sprint car. We do dirt racing.
Really?
And that's not a cheap hobby either.
No.
So that's where most of both the businesses have allowed us to do that.
So that's the whole reason you're an accountant, is so you can go. Are you not the driver? Or you?
No, I'm not. No, my son is.
Okay.
Now he's 15. When he started, he was 5. And he's pretty good. He's had several track championships, and we've been to many, many tracks. I think he's probably driven on 30 tracks across the country. And it's something that we do, we enjoy, and it's good family time. And
now tell me you're the crazy banshee screaming mom in the stands as he's driving.
No, I run the camera. I'm not the screaming banshee woman. Although I do all of our night driving. I drive the truck and trailer home at night.
Okay. All right. So you're all in. Good on you.
I have been known to take him without Dad to the racetrack occasionally. Yeah.
Well, it's great. My brother and I were watching some of the dirt track, sprint cars running, and these kids are 17 years old and, winning these massive championships, racing against guys that are, in their 40s. It's crazy. Wow, that's awesome. You just got a pretty and crazy journey with your entire story, girl. Growing up through high school and everything else, did you know your life was going to be this wild and crazy?
Absolutely not. No. I grew up on a farm, and my parents actually still have the farm. So they raise corn and beans, and it's, we actually grew up on a pig farm. And I have two sisters, and after we graduated, got married, moved out, Dad got rid of the pigs. So we're like, sure, all the help leaves. And then
right.
But so we still give him a hard time about that. But he still has the crops, and they still live on the home place. And so actually I live 5 miles from the home place. So, and I live on family farm ground as well.
That's what I was going to ask, because, I grew up on a farm. We all went city life, and now we're all back on farms. It's a crazy, you kind of always go back to the roots. I was curious if you were living on farmland or not, because
yes. Yep.
We have our little hobby farm with our goats and chickens and ducks and gardens, and it's all for us. Wow, what a crazy ride. So what's next? I mean, you're doing all these things. What's next on the horizon?
Well, I've actually already started it. I am going to do some public speaking with my book. I wrote the book for high school and college children, as they head out into the world, all their financial first. Your first car, your first house, your first marriage.
I mean this completely politely. God, I love you. Nobody's tackling that a freaking arena.
Yeah. So I wrote
even
this
myself,
book.
Get out of high school, you don't know shit about finances. I mean,
true.
Nobody teaches you how to balance the checkbook. Nobody teaches you how to manage anything. Awesome. Tell me more.
My plan is to speak in schools to start and sell my book and give away that information that all those high school kids. I mean, because the credit card company is going to mail them a credit card when they turn 18. So
Absolutely.
At least we need to teach them how to use it.
Now, to me, you should be in the high schools teaching that class. That's a valuable class that kids could learn.
Well, the high school teacher that taught me accounting has retired this year, and I did apply for that position and told my business manager, the office manager here, if I get that position, you're going to have to step it up. So, because I would like to be able to take interns out of the school to the accounting firm, give them firsthand experience to see how that works. I mean, if that's the world that they want to go into, it's an excellent world. And I think every student should take at least one business class to know how to read a financial statement. You may never own your own business, but you at least need to know how it works. And, if there's comments made in a business, in a meeting or something, you at least need to know a little bit about how that all works and what that is. If you see the financials, I worked at a company where they shared the financials with us, and there were people in the room that didn't even know what they were looking at. So They didn't even know, do I want to invest in this company or do I want to run the other way? And that's something that I think every child needs to know how to do, how to interview, how to fill out a job application, some of those basic skills that aren't being taught in schools, and the children are the ones that suffer.
You're absolutely right. I mean, because kids are raised by how their parents were raised. So if their parents didn't teach them finances, books didn't teach them about entrepreneurism, being a bit, whatever they learned as a kid, they're passing on the same knowledge to their kids. So I'm really excited that you're tackling that.
And our kids may not ever see a W-2 job. I mean, a lot of big businesses are going more contract.
Yeah.
So they may not have the whole opportunity to just have a W-2 job. I mean, they're probably not going to go to work for the same company that they retire from.
Well, and I saw a stat one time, and I don't remember where I saw it, but, you know, if a household has two parents that are entrepreneurs, it's like 90% chance that your kids will be entrepreneurs, you know, just because I don't want to say it's in their blood, but they've been exposed to it, so they carry on that tradition. So
yeah.
Good on you. Good on
yeah.
you. How do people get in touch with you? How do they find out if they want to buy this book, they want to see you speak, they want to join your Facebook page to see your lives and all that? How do people find you?
My website for my accounting firm is my name. It's CaseyLWilliams.com. And my book is Financials for the Number 4, Gen Z. And that is available on Amazon and available through the website Financials for Gen Z. So that's how you can contact me.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's awesome. Well, here's how I like to wrap up every one of these podcasts. And I usually catch people on this because they're not prepared for it, so be forewarned. But if you could leave my guest with a thought, a phrase, a quote, or a message that they could carry with them on their journey, that maybe when they're stacked up against it, they're going through hell, or they're just living in, you know, whatever portion of their journey that they could pull out of their belt and use or remember, what phrase would you tell them to have?
I'm a Jim Rohn fan, so I would say probably that you need to figure out your path, make your path, plan your path, because if you leave it to chance, everybody else is not going to plan for you, or something like that is how he says it. But that's probably my favorite Jim Rohn quote that has gotten me through a lot, because I use a goal setting planner that I set goals at the beginning of the year, and then my monthly goals and weekly goals get me up to that. So that's what I would say. That's
awesome. That's one of my favorite things that people don't know about Jim Rohn. We're not talking about the guy from ESPN. We're talking about the motivational speaker. He's actually Tony Robbins' mentor. He's the guy who taught Tony the ropes. You should go read that history sometime of how Tony actually was able to do what he did. It's not always a good story, but Jim Rohn, amazing guy to follow with everything. You know, the guy created the big, huge seminars with Zig Ziglar and everything else. So awesome guy. Well, Casey, thank you so much for being on the show. This was awesome. Thank you for not being the typical bookkeeper, accountant, actually having a personality and doing something with it. It's awesome to hear your journey. I really appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode. I hope you were impressed by it as much as I was. Man, keep kicking ass and like. Please do me a favor. Comment, share, tell your friends about this. Every share just brightens my day. I appreciate it.